I'm very proud to be representing Neighborhood Solutions. We're inspired and informed by Majora Carter, an environmental activist from the Bronx, New York, who said one amazing thing: you shouldn't have to move to live in a better neighborhood. So what we did was took a lot in our Huff neighborhood, right at 66 and Huff, and we're turning it into an urban agricultural zone. We started in 2010 with the Reimagining Cleveland grant and built a winery. Last year, we just opened a biocellar, and we're going to be putting in solar and wind power, and most importantly, we're going to start our winery this year. We do this with people coming out of incarceration because we know that going to prison isn't nearly as scary as coming home. What we do is reach out to people in a halfway house and ask them, are they serious about changing their lives? If they like working inside, we send them to Brandon. They can work in the kitchen. The others that like working outside, and that's why some guys fail. They just cannot work inside very well. We put them to work outside. We put them to work pruning, we put them to work installing, learning construction skills and trades, and it works. We so far have had, since 2010, we've had about 50 people go through our program, and we have about a 50% success rate that have gone on. We're a transitional employer. This year, we're starting, in fact, tomorrow we have our first group of high school kids. Instead of doing just re-entry, we're switching over to pre-entry. How can we stop young people from going into that institution to begin with? And we're going to do it by dangling dollars. We pay them, they come in, they're going to do work study, they're going to learn some vineyard skills, and there's a tremendous career in the vineyard industry, believe me, there is. Reimagining Cleveland gave us a grant, and we named our vineyard the Vineyards of Chateau Huff. And people smiled nicely and said, if we would have said the Vineyards of Hunting Valley or the Vineyards of Westlake, nobody would have raised an eyebrow. But when we said the Vineyards of Chateau Huff, they did a double take. It's a political statement. What we're actually saying is that the land that we occupy in Huff is just as valuable to us as the land they occupy in Hunting Valley or Westlake. And if you come to our vineyard, right in the inner city, you won't see a fence anywhere. There's no fences around. We will never fence ourselves off from our neighbors. We don't have to, because in every community, there's 13, 14, 15-year-old boys that act out. What we do, we hire them, real simple. They work for us. When we first started, and anytime you start a project within a community, you have to get community buy-in. You really have to get your neighbors to believe and want what you're doing in their community, because it's their community too. And I was out working by myself, and one of my neighbors asked, she said, I can't, my arthritis won't let me come help you, but she hired these little dudes and paid them to come work for me. This was my first crew. And so I put them to work picking up rocks in the vineyard. We were just clearing the land. And as kids would do, they picked up rocks for about 30 seconds or a minute, then went back to playing again. And so what I did was I painted that X on the wall of the building next to the lot and asked them, who can hit that X? Within about an hour, all of the stones were packed up underneath that X. So I learned something about letting people do what they're good at. But before long, a lot of people started finding out what we were doing. In addition to our workers, we started getting volunteers, experts in viticulture. In fact, one day we had a retired judge who came, and he didn't realize it, but he was working next to a guy that he'd sent to prison 5 years before. Worked out okay, though. Then we really got popular. We got into Oprah's old magazine. Oprah liked us, but there's a downside to it. Now she won't quit calling me, you know. I try to tell Oprah I'm too old. Who's that handsome gentleman there in the center? Then we got our first vintage wine. We took and entered it into Geauga County Fair. I didn't want to do it. I didn't think we had a chance. Lo and behold, we won a second place ribbon our first year with our first vintage. And they said that's like a golfer picking up a golf club for the first time and hitting a hole in one. So now we know we can make good wine. The price went up too. Our current partners, we have a great list of current partners, and we just did a handshake agreement last week with the Botanical Garden, so we have a new potential, well not potential, they're a current partner now, that we will probably be thinking about doing hops, because while we're vintners, while we do grapes, we think that there's money in growing hops to sell to the craft brewers. But our big project is our winery. We can grow grapes, but we have to process them to get a license to be able to sell the wines that we make. So later this month, we will start cleaning out the building that you saw with that X on it to build our winery right in Huff, right adjacent to our vineyard. Our architect, Rob Donaldson, I see him sitting there with his lovely wife. We know that that will give us a capacity to use our own grapes and imported grapes, and we will eventually get to where we can sell wine at about $28 a bottle, and that should produce a couple $100,000 in profit, but we're going to start on a different tack. There's our bottle mix. We're going to start with wine at $125 a bottle. We're going to benchmark our price, and we're only going to sell it one place, in Edwards. That way we establish that we're making top quality wine. Then, because here's the secret, you can go down in price, you can't go up. If you start making $15 a bottle of wine, you'll never get to the high price. So we don't have to sell a lot of $125 bottle of wine, just enough to let people know that's what we think of it. And we know, we've learned how to make good wine. A $25,000 investment from Sea Change would allow us to build one more acre. That's what it takes to put an acre of land in, employ about 10 more at-risk people, and the grapes will turn into probably $100,000 worth of profit. We're Neighborhood Solutions, we're Chateau Huff. We love having visitors, and we also love having volunteers. Please come see us. Thank you.